And I'm live. Hi, Charlotte. How are you? Okay, there's about a 10 seconds delay between the chat and the stream. That's perfect. Not too much. Can you hear me well? And is it better than last time? It should be slightly better. Alright, that's perfect. Is this better, and is there any more background noise? Yeah, I mean, if you can hear me over the sound of your fan, it should be alright. It shouldn't be too bothering to anyone who doesn't have a fan in the back. Hi, Arian. And hi, Scanlan. Yeah, today I'm going to do some world building because I'm really. I've conlanged for about 5.5 hours today. Hi, how do you pronounce that? As Unite? AZ Unite? I don't know. So yeah, I'm going to be world building this time because I've conlanged for 5.5 hours today and I'm a bit tired of it. I find conlanging to be a bit more mentally strenuous than world building in general. I mean, looking at cars is a hobby like any other. I'm assuming it's because you want to buy one, though. Oh, believe me, you don't need to. I've actually sacrificed music practice because of it. I've been working on. Uh, I'm not entirely sure how much I can say about it, so I'm going to stay very broad and vague. Uh, Basically, I've been hired to do accounting for a very large project, and they wanted to have something coherent to start working with it. So I had to make an entire writing system today. And hopefully they did not want or need a font, because that would have been a mess in 5 hours. Like, I barely took the time to eat because I really wanted to get it done before the stream, so I could actually stream when I wanted to and not when I could. Am I actually streaming in 48 FPS? Because I shouldn't be. And oh yeah, I actually am. I truly do not need 48 FPS. Like I would be perfectly fine with even 15 FPS because this is just text. So I'll probably put it to 24, 25 for the next stream. Thank you for telling me. Yeah, actually never touched that setting because I just left it there. So, back to the stream and everything. Uh, what area of the Yalonda world are we building today? That's entirely up to you, the chat. You people. You are going to have to tell me what. Like, all we've established is that it's an island. Oh, and I have not uh, done this very well. I'm glad I'm not being paid for that. This should be a list. Oh, and I have not been able to solve my problems with lists, but hey. So, what's the plan? You tell me what we should be working on, basically. Um, I wouldn't mind some speculative evolution down the line, but for evolution to know what kind of evolution we need, we are going to have some environment. So I would first do something like uh, define biomes, define the environment before doing evolution. Of course, we could also just have design animals in a vacuum, well, animals and plants, everything, in a vacuum, and then define what kind of environment is needed for them. Have fun with the car, Eileen, by the way. Help you find what you're looking for. So yeah, I was doing this. We could just work on the Pantheon if we want to, or I mean, we have a lot to do. I mean, since it's an island, it's kind of a given that with the type of culture we've set up, we have set up all expectations towards something that is subtropical or tropical, maybe equatorial. And yeah, probably a mountain since they dislike flight and they probably dislike altitudes or something. At least that's what I got from the previous content or previous discussions about it. Do we want many islands or just one? That's a very good question. As for dialects, I'm well. This is going to be a world building stream, but I'm not a fan of treating them as just slight variations on the same language. I would much rather treat them entirely through diachronics and actually evolve the language. It could be some evolution over the course of like 200, 300 years, so that it's kept rather similar, but we could have each island have its own tiny specificities, which would effectively make them on the level of dialects and not fully iterated languages. Oh, and actually, before we actually start working on the stream, I had two questions, I think. Yes, two. Managed to forget one in like 10 seconds. That's nice. So, one, would you like me to set up a Discord server just for this project? Rather, just for my streams? Because I've been toying with the idea for a while. And second question is, would you like me to have a face cam? Like, I'm not that self-centered, but I do have a webcam. It works, and I can set it up for the next stream. Not that I care, but maybe you do. And like my face has been seen many times already, so I don't care. No worries. Yeah, that was also my worry, but then again, the chat is not that active, so it's probably never going to reach like halfway through the page. So having a facecam there, for instance, would not be absolutely nonsensical. Come on, just say I'm ugly. Just say it. And there we go, that should be better. Yeah, much better. Right, so no facecam, and what about a Discord server? Hi, Patat. Just call him tubercle. Is that actually a word in English? I'm starting to do myself. Oh yeah, tuber. I'm Zom. All right. So anyway, what do you want to work on? We could either work on the culture, which is purely material, so we don't need to have a map or anything. I'm not willing to work on a map on stream because when making a map, I fiddle around a lot, and that takes a lot more time than it should. But I don't have a streamlined process unless you take into account that streamlined process actually includes a lot of fiddling and drafting and just closing the document to start anew a lot of times. Has it been that long? Oh yeah, that's right. I did have a map stream in March, I think, and the software just wouldn't display correctly. I should probably try it again at some point because I've changed software to capture. So, oh right, yeah, the absolutely awful audio. Yeah, it was one or the other anyway. Yeah, some software actually does that. No, 6 months is a lot, but he said months. And yeah, welcome as Unite. I don't know where you're from actually. Not as in the country or anything, but which server you got notified on for the stream. Yeah, he could eat a lot with that, but talks even more. So, what do we do? Culture, uh, religion and theology? Or just do we define something outside of the island? Just call him potato, please. It's going to be very confusing for me as. So, do we have any suggestions for what to work on, or shall I just choose? Well, nothing's been done recently regarding world building. So this is basically the first world building stream. So it's really whatever you want. Yeah, we basically have nothing. You know what, let's work on religion. I'm going to relabel this religion. And I'll leave that here as an introduction and have chapter, so the next one is section. And here we are going to have the gods. What gods are there? Do we want to have just a handful of gods? Or do we want a lot of them, or do we want an infinity of them? Yeah, we've already defined that it was polytheistic. Alright, lots of gods. Does that mean like 12? Does that mean 30? Does that mean 150? Or does that mean that we are going to work it out later? Few dozens, 40. Yeah, let's go with something like between 40 and 60. All right. I'm sorry if you can hear anything, it's just my coffee machine shutting off. I don't think that the island should be as large as to include variations on the same god. Beyond, like, it also does hit this domain, it also does these things. It, like, this is not as large as, say, Greece, at least in my mind. We may change that later, but for now we just focus on the general concepts. Unless we do want to dive right into one specific god, because the concept is interesting. But that's for you to decide in the chat. Yeah, I think 40 is pretty good. Like, anywhere between 30 and 60 seems good. It corresponds to a few dozens by potato. Alright, so how do we want to divide them? Do we divide them by domain? Are they one big family like in the Greek world? How real are they? Yeah, to my shame, I have worked on way larger because I was stupid. Like, when I was 14 or 15, I made an entire pantheon of like 200 gods. It wasn't going very deep, but it existed. Yeah, we don't know how close they are to humans either. Are they actually humanoids, or are they just entities that can act on the world? Do they have human needs? Like, the Greek gods are a very big example in mythology and everything related to a pantheon, where it's basically several large families of humanoid entities with sort of human needs, but not human emotions. And they have a grasp on all of the human world. Well, magic isn't real, so I'd say the gods aren't real either. I would say it does not necessarily cancel out. Like, gods can be real and be against one type of magic that just isn't theirs, but they are not considered like magic. They are considered divine and godly. All right, so do we go for gods that are. Well, my question about how real are they is also about how, not how, just how powerful, but how influential. Are they, do they actually have an existence? And do they actually have an impact on the world? Or is it just superstition? Okay, so with that tree, that being the largest tree, being the god of the forest, really in part, I'd say it's just a religion. You get like conflating. We could have something a bit in between, where the biggest tree in the forest actually holds some power in that maybe it is in some sort of defense against outside aggression. It's going to react in the same way as in the movie Avatar by James Cameron, where the vegetation, the biggest tree reacts to the invasion. So it has some power, it's just not godly. It's revered and seen as God, but that's mostly religion and superstition, and it does not have that much actual power. A bit of both, in that the biggest tree would actually have some power vested in it by nature. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. The delay. Well, let's just say it's not necessarily canonical, but it's limited. Like, maybe there is. It's limited by the nature of each god or each type of god. For instance, the biggest tree in any forest would be a god of the forest. And if you raise that tree, one of say three of the biggest trees, then there are only two left. So it's a de facto thing where you'd have the larger thing be vested by in have some power vested in them. Maybe we could also create that by consensus, where everyone agrees that a specific entity, because of its might and the how it inspires, would get vested some power, and and it has that power, but originally just a tree. Like, people unconsciously decide what is and isn't a god. So if people stop believing that this tree is the god of the forest because there is another one that is mightier, then it stops having power, and the power is instead given to the mightier tree. So it would be real powers stemming from superstition. I think we should have humanoid and non-humanoid gods. Yeah, the boat father would, by necessity, be some kind of humanoid, because it is the father of humankind. So it would be represented as humanoid, or at least heavily anthropomorphized. Uh, what did I just say? Anthropomorphized? I don't know. So the belief is why the gods exist. Yes, kind of. It's more. I was thinking more of the gods exist, but whether or not they have. Well, no, the spirits exist, but whether or not they have power and what powers exactly they have depends on the belief. I mean, maybe it could be an aircraft carrier with eyes and a mouth. Are you sure? Do you not want some of the tank engine, but in boat form? Are you sure you don't want nightmares? Alright, fine. Alright, so there are a number of spirits that do exist, but are given powers by belief. I, yeah. I think it's a good approach. Alright. I'm just going to label them spirits for now, and maybe we'll have to. Actually, do we have a word for this, Charlotte? You might have the lexicon open, so I'm asking you. Do we have a word for spirit or god? Well, we don't need to. What I did not want to do was like a full-on fantasy island. I wanted something that is low fantasy, but think of like the Miyazaki movies or animes, call them whatever you want. So they are fairly low fantasy, and there is just some kind of mystical vibe going all around because the gods somewhat exist, but they do not have that much power, so they cannot make it all fantasy. So while it is kind of high fantasy that gods exist in some way, if they do not have a lot of power, they do not have a lot of impact. So it would be mostly cultural and moral that their existence affect the lives of people, but they couldn't say just annihilate a whole continent or wield magic. I mean, realistic is a bit off the mark when we're talking about, hey, spirits and gods exist. But I think it makes sense to have in a story where we don't have to account for too much of the power of the gods. Yeah, exactly, fake account. I mean, it could be called mythopoeia or mythopoeia, however your dialect pronounces it. So these gods are spirit. How do we describe it exactly, actually? Because they exist, but do the people know that? And do we want to describe from the top, or do we want to describe it from inside, as though we were in the world? I usually take a very diegetic approach to my writing for world building and conlanging, where someone in the world describes something in the world. But I don't mind taking a more top down approach, where someone not from the world, like an omniscient narrator, looks at it and describes it rather objectively. Yeah. In natural. Yeah, it's a hard line to walk because I don't want to give out too much. Yeah, I think at some point I'm just going to decide that I just write information and just make it obvious that it's information that is objectively true but is not necessarily known by the people in the world. I'll probably just create some formatting for it in LaTeX, like for next time. I have to make myself a to-do list of things I need to do. Because there's a few of that. I still need to make the map. I still need to deal better with the lists that did not want to take on the argument of no separation. And I still have to integrate the lexicon in this document. So, how do we need to establish how powerful it is, or would we want to actually? Yeah, how do we deal with exposing the world to other people? Like, do we just make that document, or do we want to have some collaborative creative writing at some point? So they are. Well, my brain is not awake enough to. I mean, it's just. Do you want to see this as a stream at some point in the future? That's really it. Or is that something you would like me to do on my own to present on stream? Because I can also do that. Hi, Yatten. How are you? I thought you had school. Wait, did you actually like, just mute your teacher in your virtual classroom just to participate here? That's fun. I mean, you know what I think of it, but I'm not going to stop you. I mean, I understand that, so I wish I could have muted more teachers back in my day. So, since you just joined, no, I don't think you're a bad person. I think you have priorities, and that priority clearly isn't that particular teacher. And that's fine because school is fucking boring. She very much is a bird person. Yeah, see, this is how the French do sarcasm. They give compliments to me, and it doesn't work. Alright, so anyway, since you just joined, we have gods. It's right here, actually. We have a polytheistic pantheon of about 40 to 60 gods. Those gods are spirits that always exist, and probably always existed, but they are vested power, they are given power through belief. So the more people believe that a given spirit is manifests itself in a given entity that happens naturally, like a very big tree, or the ocean, or a particular mountain, then that spirit grows more powerful and can have more and more of an impact on the real world of humans. So, for instance, a spirit in in the largest tree of the forest, many people are going to believe that that very big tree is very important and that it has this spirit in it. So this spirit is going to be able to protect the forest. Maybe it's going to grow more luxurious. Maybe it's going to have, depending on how humans interact with the forest, it's going to have more predators or more game. So, for instance, if the humans attack the forest by cutting the trees, maybe that spirit is going to make it so predators are more abundant to defend the forest against humans. But if humans take decent care of the forest, maybe the forest is going to have more fruits, more game for the humans to feed on, and to hunt. So we're going to have that purely tied to the belief, and both respect, love, and well, all of respect, love, and fear for that spirit are going to grow its influence, its power. I mean, if you try to anchor a boat to a mountain, you're going to have a very tough time. So you would like to have everything that is land be opposed to everything that flies, even mountains that go high. So yeah, that could work. Yeah, people have ideas sometimes. It's really nice. All right, so let's. I'll create some subsections. So we have the father. Yeah. So you. How do we deal with that? Should we maybe have a list of birds could be cool? No, they can't. we decided birds are evil. All birds are evil. Yeah, basically they have an aversion for everything that flies. So how should we proceed about the gods? Uh, I'll just copy that. I'll put it here. I'm just using epigraph to do that. Yeah, sadly PLS does not work in English. So how do we proceed about the gods specifically? Like, I think we need a list of natural phenomena and entities in which the spirits can manifest themselves. Ah, of course. It just gives the idea we can always work on it to make it less high fantasy. Well, the problem I see with the mother type deity is that it's a bit cliche, yeah, as you say. Yeah, I agree that each island or each community should have a patron god or a patron spirit, a bit like the polis in ancient Greece, or a bit like patron saints in villages in medieval Europe. Spirit exists in different mortal realm. Cannot be seen by humans. The spirits can travel to the other version of the same realm, only appearing natural entities. So they would have specific anchor points in which they can go, I guess, in order to interact with the world, and they can only interact with the world with what's connected to it. And they draw from something else, that the other plane realm. The island being the deity could work, I think, but for a very, very major, deity, like, yeah, probably the motherly island deity that Charlotte mentioned. Or is each island a deity? Well, instead of having a patron deity, maybe the island is the physical deity, and only some deities are manifested that way. Not necessarily the most powerful, but maybe only the, I don't know, children of the volcano creating the islands. Yeah, the more I talk about it and hear about it, the more I like it. Alright, so we need to have. I'm going to change that to a chapter and this to a part. because this is going to be rather big in the end, because there is no reason for that not to be a part. And then we have sectioned spirits, and before that oops, this is in the intro, and here some physical deities. Each island can be a deity. Alright, what I think I'm going to go with, and you tell me if there is a problem with it, that we have both spirits and some physical deities that are not as powerful in the same manner as the spirits, because the spirit's power depends on the belief, but the physical deity's power does not depend on belief. They just exist, and it depends on their size. So physical deities would be the islands, and we may have more physical deities. So that every island would be a deity, say, we could have oceanic currents be deities too, because they could at times of the year bring the weather, bring more fish to catch. So they could be regarded as deities, and they have a physical existence of sorts. And each island could be seen as the mother or father that provides for the people on the island, living on them. Yeah, that's also what I intended, fake account. So the physical deities are not spirits, they do not obey the same laws. I'm going to take your paragraph and put it in the same manner as this. Oops. And I'm going to fix this one. So physical deities would be more limited in their reach. That's the introduction, and a few ideas, and the gods. Maybe it could be more of a duality, and they are not necessarily gods, but kind of like the titans of Greek mythology. Yeah, when an island disappears, it's the loss of a god. And when a volcanic eruption creates a new island, it is the birth of a god. So that if we have that kind of children of the volcano vibe to how the islands are created and how they have deities. Oh yeah, travel to the other realm. There we go. But Daddy would not necessarily be in the same realm as the volcano. To me, But Daddy is still a spirit, but it created humans. Or, I mean, it could be both, actually. But to me, the boat daddy created humans because they had somewhere to live, thanks to the children of the volcano or whatever we want to call them. So maybe he decided, along with his volcano wife, to create this island with people on it. So maybe Bud Daddy is actually just the ocean, a spirit for the ocean, and the volcano wife, or whatever you want to call it, is the one who created where the humans would live. Actually, having a volcano create the land for the humans to live in is quite a nice twist on the Mother Earth analogy. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Andy. Oh, that's a thought. Yeah, that's a thought. Uh, I would say that for now, since this is the beliefs of the Yalondan people, we do not need to even think about other volcanoes. Yeah, but that's the thing. Do we want to have many volcanoes? Because they cannot see the volcano. So maybe they think it's only one that moves because it's a deity that's alive. No, they do not need to have an accurate understanding of it. So you like the idea that the land was not created for the humans. So maybe we just don't take the, don't take the land into account when creating the humans. But oh, actually, that could tie nicely with evolution. Well, the land was already available, so the some creature evolved into humans and was on the land at some point, with no degree of accuracy about whether they come directly from the ocean or not, like scientific accuracy. So maybe they believe that they actually were created as humanoids in the ocean and then went to the land because it was just there. Yeah, I would lean to the latter. Like, if we take into account that it's not just a volcano and it's more Mother Earth, and it's just a local belief that it is just that volcano, I think it works. I was thinking that the islands are okay to welcome anymore. Oh, so you would have islands where there are no humans but there are only birds, like some sort of cursed Birds by Hitchcock Island, and maybe all the birds in the archipelago come from one island. That could be a thing. But if we're going to go with several realms or planes of existence, maybe it's better to not term these parts religion but cosmology and make the gods a part of it. Yeah, so the islands just exist and are inert, neutral. Yeah, I think I like that actually. So if we're going to explain multiple realms and everything, I'm going to name this cosmology. This is going to become the realms. A section called the gods. No. I'll fix this typo. And this is a subsection. And this too. Right, so are the islands capable of consciousness at all? As in, are they how do I say it? Are they able to have any impact on who and what lives on them? Are they conscious of that, and do they react to, say, aggression, such as humans cutting the trees on the island, or is that left to the spirit of the forest? Yeah, but what is respect? Birds would automatically respect it more than humans because birds cannot just cut down trees. So does it also react? Does it also react to when, I don't know, birds take the insects from the soil, which make the soil not as fertile anymore because there aren't anything moving the ground around? Or when the birds are eating seeds that would otherwise become trees? And like, do they react to what is on them or purely on the rock that they are, rock and soil? So is deforesting punished by this island or by another spirit? Okay, so that forest. Okay, so it should be a bit conscious, but it does not necessarily react to everything. Okay, so if the forest is attacked, the spirit of the forest can decide to protect itself and to defend itself, and maybe the island is going to intervene if the forest is nice to the island, basically. So the island would just care about existing and not necessarily its exact condition. All right. Oh, I like that fake account. Well, the island does not react unless addressed or called upon. Uh, what sort of what sort of tone did I set in the documentation? Yeah, I think it makes sense. Okay, there is an idea about point of view. Before we go on further, how do I, what sort of point of view should we adopt in this documentation of the world? Do we do it top down as an omniscient and omnipresent narrator, fully acknowledging that this is entirely constructed? Or do we do it from inside the world? In short, do I look down at the world and use the third person all the time, or do I use the first person? Actually, I'll just create a straw poll. And there we go, I have a straw poll. If I can find the stream again. Oh, maybe the narrator is a spirit. That's actually a very good option. Ignore the poll, please, ignore the poll. I do not know how I delete message, but I'll figure that out later. So I'm going to make another poll. There we go. That's much better as a poll, I think. There we go. 4 options this time. So is it a spirit describing the Yalondans? Is it a spirit describing both the Yalondans and the spirits? Or is it an omniscient narrator? And a diegetic third-person narrator is hard to do on the human level because we have kind of established that it's a lone island. There might not be anything else but the Yalondans. So it would be a Yalondan describing Yalondans, so first person. So what are the results? So is anything unclear about the perspectives? There. That's the current state. Uh, Third person spirit is a spirit describing the Yalondans. First person spirit is a spirit describing the spirits and the Yalondans at the same time. And thus it would be an internal point of view where a third person spirit would likely be a much higher spirit with more power, more ability to view it from above. For instance, if we take it from a first person spirit, I would pick a lower spirit, like one for a specific forest, and how it views the world. Whereas the third person spirit would need to be, I don't know, maybe the spirit for the sky, or spirit for a particular trade wind, or maybe the Godfather. The first person spirit from the boat father's point of view would be pretty nice. So far it seemed like spirit is the theme. Because it's kind of diegetic, even though they have a more not omniscient, but all-encompassing view. Because they actually know what the spirit realm is like. I wouldn't like to make two parts. However, I could have some. Let's say we could have in italics the perspective of a Yalondan that is relevant. Yeah, I would. Yeah, the perspective from one single Yalondan at a time, or maybe a group, but that is relevant only to the chapter at hand. So we describe everything from the spirit point of view, and we insert sort of journal entries from a Yalondan, or several. And I'm not sure I like the idea of a spirit that knows absolutely everything. Because that's really just a narrator like me or you, looking at the world and describing it very objectively. And it's not separate from that. So it has no inherent value. If it's from a spirit that's high above, or in any sense of the word, I would want it to be able to see everything but not know everything. And have to do some interpretation of it. And then we insert the Yalondan's point of view, where they say what they have seen, what they have done, why they have done it, which the spirit might not know, but it has seen. I mean, the spirit could be recounting what they heard from the Yalondans. Yeah, it could, but that's basically my suggestion of having an all-seeing spirit that does not know everything. I think, at least, that's how I understand it. Because it's going to see what the Yalondans do. Though, I mean, if it's heard from the Yalondans, it's more of an understanding, but it's from the Yalondans' perspective. So I think it would be better off. Maybe there is a Yalondan who can communicate with the spirit. So you would have one Yalondan, or one per generation, maybe, or something like that. Or just, yeah, if we are describing the snapshot, it's just one, not a generational concept. It's just one group, or one per group, that can communicate directly with the spirit. Okay, how about this? We describe it from this perspective of the boat father, the ocean. And yeah, every community of Yalondan has a priest who can communicate somewhat directly with the boat father or the spirit of the ocean. Okay, how about we how about they have prayers and deliver them a certain way, and the that spirits can read those prayers. For instance, they could have a belief or an actual thing. I'm more inclined toward the latter. For instance, you speak in a bottle, you cap the bottle, throw it in the ocean, and that's how you make a wish or a prayer, and the spirit of the ocean hears it, and that's what we get from the Yalondans. The islands wouldn't be a spirit, but some other sort of entity. But I get what you mean. So, each tribe has their own way of finding who is. Okay, so that each community of Yalondans, I don't want to call them tribe just yet. We haven't really defined a structure for it. Each community of Yalondans would be nominating, however consciously or unconsciously, someone who can speak to the spirit, that one spirit, maybe all spirits maybe, but cannot necessarily hear back. How about that? A sort of one-way communication. Sure, go do that. Yeah, you like that? Because I do. section, section, subsection, and here I'll insert another section. Oops. And we're going to, but they can read from the spirit or decipher some sort of signs. Yeah, of course, like the spirit would react to what is being told to them, to them, I don't know. And for instance, if the chosen one, I'm going to call them that for now, the chosen one by the community says, hey, we need more rain, and 2 days later it rains, that's some sort of sign that the spirit is being kind to them. So maybe they are going to offer something in return. Some sort of sacrifice. So if they need more rain for more food, maybe they are going to sacrifice a bit of their crop and throw it in the ocean as a thank you. Or to show that just that they understand that it's coming from the spirit who is being kind to them. Yeah, exactly, Charlotte. That's the idea. I was going to say that's the spirit, but that's a bit too on the nose. Yeah, I like that. So I'm going to detail a bit of the communication. I'll have to make another title page between those parts, so I'm just going to skip a lot. Very cool night. Alright, so we are going to be describing it all from the perspective of a spirit that can hear all the prayers or the communication by specific people in the Yalondans. So now we just have to pick which spirit it's going to be. So is it actually the Godfather, or do we have a spirit of the ocean that is tasked with communication with all the other spirits? So only this spirit can hear from Yalondans, from humans, but it relays information to all of the spirits. Oh, that was you, Inter. Okay. Wind is kind of not good because of flight, air, and everything. Yeah, we could just have the spirit of the ocean because it touches everything. It surrounds all the islands, and I kind of liked my idea of you utter your communication in a bottle, you close the bottle, and throw it in the ocean. I like the waves idea because the waves come crash towards the islands and then go away. So it makes sense that this sort of cycle would be pretty nice. Yeah, Londoners get the water they drink from the ocean. No, absolutely not. They would die. Like, you do not drink salty water. It dehydrates you. It's very, very bad. And if you were to like heat it up and get it back and just leave out the salt, it's still a very inefficient process because you would need something to cover it. It takes a lot of time to evaporate. It's really not a good thing. I think they just have rivers. Like, rivers are okay, even though we can have some bacteria in it, or human wastes from settlements a bit further up in the river are going to descend and everything. If the communities are small enough, it's not really a problem. It became very, very large problems in the antiquity and medieval times. Uh, but then they just like purified it by hitting it or just use sources. Yeah, I'm going to go with the spirit of the waves, or maybe the tides, actually, which is a more. It's more of a cycle when the waves are constant. So I don't know. Both feel adequate, and maybe it's actually the same spirit. What do you mean? What do you mean? Why wouldn't they have rivers? I said they have rivers. Or are you directly answering intermission? Yeah, I got that. I just. Do you want the spirit of the tides and the spirit of the waves to be just one spirit? Spirits of the waves and tides, or tides and waves. I don't care. Okay. All right. All right. So, um, how do we describe that? Well, maybe it can be the same word for waves, and one is just slow waves for the tide. Or maybe it's just major wave. And we really hope that we don't have to deal with like tsunamis. Alright, so how do we describe that? That's the hard part. Ideas are great, but putting them into words. Um, it is possible for the Yalondans. I'm just going to do this first. There we go. Or just the speakers. But yeah, I mean, tight speakers sounds pretty cool. Not to communicate, because communication sort of imply that it's two ways when it's not. So I'm not sure I want that. To be heard. We decided it was third. It was third person, so it's not by me. It's by the waves. Yeah, waves. Yeah, send messages is a bit like connotated with something too slow. Though I guess it is slow to speak in a bottle, cap it, and throw it, and then expect some sort of sign in reply, like a week later. To be heard seems fine. So they are elected, right? The spirit of the waves is writing this, but doing it in the third person, because that's the result of the poll. Everyone preferred the third person. Well, everyone, as in twice the votes, as in two against one. So, and I'm more fond of a third person description. Which is why I generally just have someone who is a foreigner from the people it's describing. I, yeah, I didn't vote, so I don't remember either. Okay, so how are they elected? How are they chosen by the communities? When are they chosen by the community? Are they a tide speaker for life? Are they a tide speaker for a year? Are they a tide speaker for a season? Or is it every time they need to communicate with the spirit of the waves, they are going to nominate someone? Oh, you would have a sort of dynasty. Uh, this family is blessed or something. Yeah, actually, I like the idea. If anyone else validates it, I'm going to go with that, I think. And I'm going to go fetch a coffee. Tire speakers are chosen and trained from teenagehood. Well, we could just fuse the two ideas where it's from one family, but they do not all become tide speakers, and only the children of tide speakers can become other tide speakers. I'm not sure I want to have a caste system because this is not supposed to be a very advanced people with large settlements and a lot of. I'm going to call it civilization, if it's not really that. They have small communities that are not necessarily built, settled, and everything as much as a city in the antiquity or medieval times. We need a special clause. Well, a special clause would be that they probably could fetch another one. So maybe there is no special clause, and when a community loses its last living tide speaker, it's actually a very big deal. Because there is no easy replacement. Well, maybe they can't do that because the spirits do it. So maybe the spirit is the one providing. So maybe a baby will wash up ashore. Or maybe it could be absolutely dark. And when that happens and a community does not have any more Thai speakers, they actually leave all the newborns on the beach at low tide, come back like a day later, and the only surviving newborn is a Thai speaker. So you would have the potato, you would have the Thai speakers act as more, more like moral guides and not rulers. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for that system for having Thai speakers. So do we keep the fact that it's a family? Okay, so it would need to be like basically a kid of at least 7 or 8 years old. Type away, intermission. Type away. I mean, you could. I think that if they are children and it's not as dark, then the selection process would be a bit different, and the children would have the option to run away. And among those who run away, who don't run away, sorry, who stay for the high tide to catch them, maybe like because they have secured themselves in order to prove their fort, mental fortitude, power of will. Maybe these kids, one of them would survive, without making it a guarantee that if there is only one kid left, he survives. Or she, or they, or whatever. I'm not a very big fan of having it be completely chosen if it's some sort of family. Oh, the candidates need to not be of the speaker's family. Oh, no, they don't need to be, but they don't need not to be. Okay. I'm not sure I like having such an investment in such a small community that if you prepare 10, only one will be chosen. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the kids, like the young kids, but not the toddlers and not the newborns. So that would maybe relate to some sort of idea of moral awareness where a kid is able to make moral choices but is not yet an adult. And you could increase the number of candidates. No, that's the thing. I don't want more candidates. Like, it's such a massive pool to pick from. That's what I want to avoid. I like the idea initially of one single family across all the islands because it really limits it. And then in that family, any child of a tide speaker would be able to become a tide speaker but does not need to. And at some point, if there are no tide speakers, we select a new family or someone, one person among a community that would become a new family of potential tide speakers. Oh, actually, yeah, maybe as Charlotte, I like your idea with just a tiny twist to correspond to the earlier idea that the children have to make the necklace themselves at night when the tide is going higher, and they have to go grab a seashell from the seafloor, something like this. Well, as much as I would like the idea for something else, for something that is universal to all communities of Yalondans, I wouldn't want to. Yeah, I wouldn't really want to have that be different because then they wouldn't be regarded as legitimate with it, which might be what you're going for actually. Like maybe a given community regards another community's choice of tide speakers as illegitimate. But I don't really want to cause too much tensions between all the communities of Yalondans. That's an excellent quote, Charlotte. Children have to be able to die. Very good quote. So, I'm really not a fan of having it be very different among each across communities. Sorry, but we can make it a bit different. For instance, maybe one community does it with newborns, and another does it with slightly older children. Big subgroups of Yalondans with two or three ways of choosing. Yeah, of course, it's understandable, but I just don't want it to be that big a divide. If you just want some variation, then I would rather have it one core method. Like, you bring the kids at low tide and wait. And some communities would value the ability for kids to run away if they don't want to die or don't want to become a tide speaker, so that it would limit the pool. It would be harder for them to get a tide speaker when they need one. So maybe there is some immense social pressure. Maybe some actually tie the kids down. Maybe some do it with newborns. Maybe, and yeah, one community could do it with pregnant women. And we could have that little fantasy element where all the pregnant women disappear, but a newborn is found on the shore. It's great. First world-building stream, and we're already talking about child sacrifice. I mean, it's not exactly misogyny to sacrifice pregnant women because pregnant men don't exist. Yeah, that could also be the case, Charlotte. Maybe some communities have found a less bloody way to do it. I like that. Yeah, for the next stream, I'll have to find a way to make the chat stay a bit longer on the screen. Because I think it's not staying enough. I think I set it to 20 or 30 seconds. Not even sure. But I can't find where I can set it anymore. Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's fair, Potato. Okay, so for this, each community has its own way of selecting. No, for this, each community has a tide speaker. Are the only members. See, I can write. Oh yeah, I need to add that too. Yeah, it's still a rather rare occurrence. Family of tide speakers. Let's go with that. Are the only members of a community that can reach which is the only to hear humans directly. Yeah, we'd probably have to have some sort of first men myth or legend, like how was it created? Not just a creation of the world myth, but a creation of humans. Though they could consider that the world as it is only starting with the creation of humans. So tide speakers are the only members of a community that can reach the spirit of the waves, which is the only spirit able to hear humans directly. This is very, very bad practice. The double backslash in LaTeX. Do not do that. I'm doing it because this is a draft and it's going to be revoked. It's not something you should use in prose. In order to send a message, a tide speaker speaks into it. Into the ocean. Oh yeah, But I kind of want to have the first tide speaker happen at the same time as the first humans, or maybe just slightly later. Oh, so tide speakers came after community established. Eh, we'll have to see exactly. Really, for now we're just going to deal with the communication between the realms. We are going to have to find a name for Spirit of the Waves at some point. I'm putting can relay it instead of relays it, because maybe you have to buy the favor of the Spirit of the Waves, else maybe it just does not communicate it to the other spirits, so that nothing happens or bad things keep happening. Yeah, it would need to be based on that. They could have some mythologic timeline. Yeah, I think I'll just, because this is really a hassle to decide such big things on stream, as we've just noticed with this stream, which is going to have to end in about 10 minutes, by the way. So I'm just going to finish this. And yeah, I think I just draft an outline, sort of, for a timeline, really, and propose it to you, or like craft 3 or 4, and then we vote on them. Before the tide speakers, could the spirit of the at least see the humans? Yes, in my mental idea of everything, in this world, they are aware of each other. They just cannot communicate directly. But yes, the spirits could see, feel the humans and observe them. They just do not speak the same language, and speaking inside the water container is the only way for that the language of the humans to translate into that of the spirits, maybe. Subsection. The choosing. It's a cheesy name, but it works. We can still like translate into Yalonda and adapt it later. So I assume this is a mix. This is clearly a mix of XM annotation and IPA. Yeah, no worries. So the choosing. Um, all the tide speakers of community should come to die without leaving an heir. For this depends on the community of them revolve run the same basic core ideas. I almost did it. Okay. Maria for a word, spirit, deity. Yeah, I think I'm not going to save it, but I'm going to edit this video a bit. Because the beginning was a bit long. So I'll see it again and I'll try and incorporate it in some way, at least. So they revolve around the same core ideas. Some a new tide speaker. How do we say family starter? A new bloodline must be blessed. The spirits of the waves which is done through selecting one child. It's always a child, it's just not always a newborn. From the community. This selection process. The specifics of this selection process vary. Always involve the children being taken to the ocean at night during low tide. For the high tide to set in. That sounds like a good word. I'll make a small note of it. Let's say here as a comment, and I'm going to check it against the grammar later. I'm going to have a lot of work to do before next stream, which is going to be on next Friday, by the way, not Thursday. I just have everything fall on me on Thursday now, so it's going to be on every Friday. So for next week, some specific choosing methods. Alright, so I'm going to start the stream here, and I wanted to ask, do you think it's a good idea for me to have a Discord server specifically for this project, or at least for the streams? Because I have been toying with that idea for a while. I have a server set up, I just don't know if I'm ever going to use it. And it would mean that we could like have some off-stream thoughts on it, and have some work done on it. If you would be so kind as to send it on Discord, that would be good. Like in my DMs or stream convo, I don't have a preference. Or I'll probably send a link to the server in stream convo on the CDN. Yeah, 5 now, but never know. Maybe some other people are going to want to join, sort of world building and conlang collaboration. And I may actually post it on like subreddit, or maybe on some French forum. Maybe bring the quality up on some other French server. Like, I know I'm reaming that French server a lot, but they deserve it. Yeah, I think I'll just make it. I'll just organize it a bit more and then post it in the CDM stream convo and anywhere relevant, really. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching and participating. It's been quite an active stream, actually, which I like, even though we were only 4 or 5. It was active and I really enjoyed it. I think they also say this in Auvergne. But yeah. Anyway, I'm going to start the stream right now and do all the things I said I would do a bit later. Have fun!